Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening for another town hall. I'm excited to be here tonight to update you on the work that we've been doing in Washington and in Minnesota and answer some of your questions. As we begin this conversation tonight, I just want to reiterate why these town hall events are so important to me. I fundamentally believe my success in Congress is contingent upon inviting members of our community to come alongside this journey through conversations in roundtables, town halls, and community events. All our conversations have directly guided my legislative priorities in Washington. With that, I would like to give you all some updates. I want to start by sharing little about what has been accomplished since our last town hall in June. This week, I reintroduced the Stop Arming Human Rights Abusers Act, our SARA Act, and the Global Migration Agreement Act. People deserve universal human rights and humanitarian conditions. The SARA Act would establish red lines based on internationally recognized gross violations of international human rights and humanitarian law. Once a country is determined to have crossed those lines, it automatically gets triggered, a prohibition on security aid of any kind and exchanges with the United States law enforcement. At the same time, it would require the State Department to actively work with the country in question to enact transitional justice mechanisms for the victims. The Global Migration Agreement Act lays out a long-term vision for American leadership on tackling the global migration crisis. It instructs the State Department and UN ambassador to take the lead on creating a binding international migration agreement. This act acknowledges the insufficiency of current resources that are forcing displacement and unfair burden in countries like Sudan, Colombia, Niger, Jordan, and Bangladesh, and the particular vulnerability of women, girls, LGBTQ plus people, and other minorities. People are fleeing their countries to seek safety, and every country has a role to play in addressing the root causes. There needs to be a place along the migrant trail to protect vulnerable communities, and there needs to be countries where people arrive and have guaranteed human rights. These bills are essential for putting human rights at the center of our foreign policy. Last week, also, I joined Representative Jan Schakowsky, along with 23 other members of Congress, to lead a letter calling on the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, to create a special envoy to combat Islamophobia. With the rise in anti-Muslim hate, both here at home and around the world, we thought it is important to create a letter that addresses this rise in attacks against the Muslim community. This year, we have seen over 500 incidents of hate in the United States. Those are just the ones that have been reported. In countries around the world, Muslim communities have been discriminated against. We must all stand united against this horrific rise in hate. Also, with the support of Representative Karen Bass, Representative Andre Carson, Representative Rashida Tlaib, we introduced a resolution in the House to recognize July as Muslim American Heritage Month. It is important that we recognize the resiliency and accomplishments of the Muslim community with a formal resolution. I hope that with the resolution, there will be an opportunity to advance religious tolerance nationwide and diminish the misunderstanding directed at the Muslim community. Earlier this month, we advanced funding for 4 transportation projects in the 5th Congressional District, totaling $32.5 million. These provisions passed as part of the Invest in America Act, the House's Service Transportation Bill. The projects include $5 million for the Metro F line from downtown Minneapolis to Fridley, $4.5 million for the Metro E line between the University of Minnesota and Edina, and $3 million for the Cedar Seward pedestrian bridge at I-94. The package would also provide over $20 million for the Metro Blue Line extension light rail transit project, which will extend the existing Blue Line LRT from Target Field Station Northwest to Brooklyn Park and connect communities along the way. The Invest in America Act makes transformative investment in America's infrastructure, creates millions of jobs, advances bold action on the climate crisis, invests in affordable housing, and expands affordable high-speed internet to marginalized communities. This legislation reinvests in communities and addresses the long-standing disparities. I'm glad this package includes my provisions to address long-standing disparities and invest resources needed to help future generations thrive. The transportation funds will also help connect underserved communities and make our city more accessible to people commuting into Minneapolis. I also want to highlight more great news for the 5th. We heard back from the appropriations committees, and we have been able to advance $14.4 million in funding for 10 community project funding projects that we submitted back in April. The projects invest in the community that were hit the hardest by both the pandemic and the social unrest in the past year by addressing joblessness, food deserts, housing insecurity, and access to healthcare. The other projects that were funded in our community project funding are a new Hennepin Healthcare Clinic on East Lake Street, skills training for clean energy careers over at North, sprinkler updates for the Minnesota Public Housing Authority that we thought were important to advance because of what happened in the public housing in Cedar Riverside, funding for the Minneapolis American Indian Center, new workforce training in South Minneapolis, food business incubator at Northside Economic Opportunity Network, new recreation building in North Commons Park, update to the Sabathani Community Center, Brooklyn Center Health Initiative, and funding for the Wadak Commons apartment in Seward. These are all great projects that we have been successful in advancing the resources to help fund and complete. I wanted to get into some casework stuff that we have been dealing with in our district office. Our office offers constituency services for a variety of issues our constituents might be dealing with. I want to take a couple of minutes to discuss what's going on and how we can help. First, my team has been getting a lot of questions about issues with the IRS. There are 3 main issues constituents have been experiencing. 1 is tax return delays, 2, missing stimulus payments, and 3, issues with the advanced child tax credit that we were able to pass and secure in the last bill that we voted on. For tax returns, the most common hiccup for people who filed on time and still haven't gotten their tax return. Almost all of these returns are being held up due to the IRS's very old computer system. The IRS explained to my team that once their computers have reached capacity for the number of returns it could process on a given day, it puts them into an error status until they have enough computer power to process them. For some reason, Once a return is in this error status, it is not processed in the order it was received. So someone filing in a less busy tax day in April will get their refund before someone who filed months earlier in a busy day. It's a very complicated situation. The IRS doesn't have a way to act on returns once they are in this error status. They have told us that the only option is to wait until the return is finally accepted and processed. Once that happens, the return is typically able to be issued pretty quickly. This situation highlights how important it is for Congress to fund new computer systems and increase staffing levels at the IRS, which is something that we are working on with some of the appropriation bills that we are putting through this week. My team is not able to get your returns out of this error status. However, some other issues could be impacting your return. For example, if you don't usually file your taxes, but did this year in order to claim a stimulus payment or a child tax credit, the IRS might need to complete an identity verification process. So my team has been able to help with people who are in this situation and have cases like that. So please reach out to our office if your return is delayed. We can't help with everything, but we are able to make sure that we are able to get you an answer. And if there's something that we can do, we will be able to do that for you. For missing stimulus payments, most people who conduct our office are missing their third stimulus payment, also known as the economic impact payment. Unfortunately, members of Congress are no longer able to work with the IRS to address missing stimulus payments for the first or the second round. People are still able to claim their full stimulus payment or whatever portion of it you didn't receive through your 2020 tax return. The IRS's website has all the information that you need in order to figure out what you can do to recover your rebate credit. If you are missing your third stimulus payment or received it and received an incorrect amount, we might be able to address that on your behalf. The IRS still is working on issuing these payments. And in any instances, you might need to wait for a physical check to arrive in the mail. You can also check with the IRS's Get My Payment tool. That portal will hopefully provide information on when you can expect your stimulus if you haven't yet received it. If the portal says you should have received a payment, but you did not, you might need to request a payment trace. If you've gone through the steps and still have not been able to determine the status of your third stimulus payment, please feel free to contact our office and we will be able to inquire with the IRS and see if we can figure out what is going on there. Earlier this month, the IRS began distributing the advanced child care tax credit, the advanced child tax credit payments to eligible families, which we are really excited about. We've been hearing that many of our constituents have received them as expected, but many folks might still be experiencing some challenges and might not have received it. If you've not gotten your child tax credit payment, please see if the IRS thinks you are qualified by going to their portal for the child tax credit. People whose children are born in 2021 or people who didn't file tax return in 2020 or 2019 will need to give the IRS additional information in order for them to be able to start receiving those payments. If you are one of those people that is experiencing some challenges with this, please reach out to our office and we will answer some of your questions directly, and we can reach out to the IRS on your behalf to try to see how we can help. get this money to you. On a policy level, we've had been able to co-sponsor a number of bills that would help fix all of these issues: funding for new computer systems, as I said earlier, modern technology, increasing staff levels, and better enforcement for super wealthy people who are dodging their taxes. It is a shame that the IRS has become so polarized. I understand that people are upset when they see money coming out of their paychecks every month, but the IRS does so much more than just collect taxes. They also carry out so many of our crucial safety net programs, including the stimulus payments we just talked about and the child tax credit payments as well. We can't keep asking the IRS to do more and more work for the American people in times of need when we don't get them the funding that they require to be able to get it all done. So my team has been working on trying to help in that process. We've also been getting a very, very high volume of questions and concerns that are related to small business relief. The high volume has been on the economic injury disaster loans, as well as the restaurant revitalization fund and the shutter venue operating grants. Most often, people are stuck waiting for a response, or if they get a response, they find out that they have been denied with little information provided about why and how to address those issues. Unfortunately, these issues appear to be rooted in IRS delays, as well as because the SBA loans require IRS verification in order to be processed. So the bottleneck is at the agency to agency level between the IRS and SBA. Again, this is due to backlog of cases resulting from decades of irresponsible disinvestment in the IRS. Regardless of the reasons, many cases that are being delayed or denied to our constituents need to be addressed, because access to this is a financial lifeline that they were promised. And all of this truly for us is unacceptable. Our staff has been able to submit many of the constituent cases that come into our office as a formal inquiry to the Minnesota District SBA office to request updates about their case. Though we can't always get the desired outcome, we are willing to do everything possible to be able to get the answers our constituents need. Without procedural changes to these small business loan programs or more investment in the IRS to get through the historic backlog, there is not much more that we can do at this time. That being said, we are actively exploring fixes to the situation and hope to have more to share on this soon. Now, I would like to address the Social Security card issues that our office is hearing from constituents. As part of the pandemic, the Social Security Administration has been dealing with a backlog of requests. Sounds like there is a theme here with a lot of the updates I'm giving you all. Because of this, we have seen a delay in constituents receiving their Social Security cards, personal documents, benefits, and much more. If you're having an issue with the Social Security Administration, again, please reach out to our office and we are happy to inquire about your situation. Lastly, I would like to provide some resources to you all. If you are experiencing hardship due to the pandemic and need assistance with paying rent or utility payments, you can apply for financial assistance on renthelpmn.org. Renthelpmn.org. If you have any questions or need assistance with a federal agency, please do not hesitate to call our office at 612-333-1272. That is 612-333-1272, or email us at mn05.info@mail.house.gov. I'll say that email one more time. You can email our office at mn05.info@mail.house.gov. One of the really cool things that we do as a congressional office is the Congressional Art Competition. It is where we engage students that are just an inspiration to our community and involved in the arts. And, we try to think in putting this competition as a program that helps young people showcase their art, not just in the district, but also in Washington at the Capitol and in our office in DC. We were encouraged by students who have been able to find community despite the unusual circumstances related to the COVID pandemic and the ways in which they were thinking about connecting through the isolation that they've been experiencing. Our first winner was able to have their piece of art be placed at the Capitol, and the second place and third place winners get their art presented in the district. And we've been sharing the beautiful art that the winners and their artwork on our social media platform. So please check out and leave a word of encouragement for these incredible people. And with those updates out of the way, I would like to pause and take some of your questions. Natasha, do I take some of the questions that are submitted to us that have?
Yes. Sorry. We were actually going to have you and Beza talk for a little bit about her art piece. That's all.
Oh,
right?
Wonderful.
Okay. Just one moment as we get Beza connected.
Oh, that's really exciting. So we're gonna talk to Beza, who is one of the young people who participated in our Congressional art competition. Hi, Beza, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Give a little introduction and a description of your art to our constituents who are tuned in.
Yeah, sure. So my art, the title is Demimba, it's an Amharic, which means tear of blood. It was inspired by this saying that in my culture we say Demimba, which is where you cry so much that the pain has turned your tear into blood. And it was inspired by the isolation that happened in my country in Ethiopia, where mothers had to be separated with their sons and daughters due to like the genocide that happening due to religion and tribal conflicts. So that's basically the whole idea of my arts.
That is really an important piece, because it doesn't it doesn't just create a visual image of what it means to suffer pain, but there is a connection, right? Because we all know what it means to experience pain and anguish, and regardless of whether we are living here in the United States or other parts of the world, there is a connection that could be created through art. And so we really do appreciate that. And then tell people a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? Where do you come from?
Yeah.
What school do you go to?
Well, I just graduated. So I used to go to South High School. I just graduated recently this year. I'm originally from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, capital city, Ethiopia in East Africa. Well, I currently live in Minnesota, I guess. That's about it. I like arts. I would like art since I was a little kid, and like to express my voice and myself through different forms of art. And that's my way of showing my voice and saying what I have to say through my art.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. My daughter also just graduated from South High School. I wanted to ask you what motivated you to decide to participate in this year's art competition.
Yeah, so what motivated me was my AP art teacher, actually. She was the one who brought up the idea about the competition. She saw how like my arts tell different unique stories, like unique that is very personal to me, but also others can relate to it. And then she gave me an idea, not the idea, but like she gave me a talk saying maybe I could join this competition. And she kind of motivated me to be part of this competition. I read the description, all that, and I thought that one of my art pieces fitted very well. So she pushed me and motivated me to be part of this competition.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you said you love the fact that you're an artist, and I'm curious to know if you have an artist that has inspired you.
Yeah. So this is like a very like not an odd question, but like for me, because I get my inspiration through like events and my personal experience and things that are going on in my life in the world. So I don't have like a specific artist that has inspired me the most. But when I do see artists that have the same concept as me, I try to incorporate their ideas within my artwork. So I'm basically influenced by what's going on around me. So I don't have like a specific person or a specific thing that have to motivate me.
And what was the process that you used for imagining and developing this concept? Was it something that you were already thinking about doing, or something that you decided to do because you decided to enter this art competition?
I was in a process of making this art piece when my teacher introduced me to the competition. And well, when I was doing that, I was actually inspired by this picture that I saw of like this mother crying, again, like in Ethiopia, like when I was watching the news and stuff. So I got inspired by that mother, and I started to create my art piece. As in painting form, it was actually painting form, and I eventually evolved it to photography. And I was in the middle process of finalizing my art piece, and then my teacher inspired me to be part of this competition. I finished it, and I also submitted to the competition as well.
Wonderful. So let's give a shout out to your teacher. Who's your teacher, and what is the greatest lesson that they have given you?
Yeah, so my teacher, my APR teacher, Miss Cynthia Berger. One of the biggest things that I learned from her is how to make my art piece strong. Because when I used to do art pieces, I just do like what I felt like at the moment. But because of her, I learned how to make my art piece very strong and give a strong message, and how to slowly plan out my art pieces that at the end will make people relate to each other through my art piece and make my voice even heard even more. And I also learned a lot of artistic skills, like professional artistic skills that I haven't learned before because I'm self-taught. And yeah, she taught me a lot of things, but these are a few of them.
Yeah. And I'm curious if you have advice that you would give to young people who are interested in making art but might be nervous or feel like they're not good enough. What are the most important things for them to think about and do?
Yeah, so when it comes to art, there's no such thing as like good enough or am I bad or good for it? Because art is about creativity and it's expressing yourself. So whichever way you start to be creative, it is not considered bad at all because that's your opinion, that's your feeling. And there's no, it cannot you cannot go wrong with your own feeling, you know what I mean? So don't be nervous about it because I used to be that person too. When I took like Miss Berger's class, AP class, I felt like I wasn't good enough because I wasn't artistic enough because I did art as like a fun, as a hobby to the side of other things. But I know a lot of people who do art on a daily basis and I wasn't one of them. So I was like, oh, I might not be good enough to do these art stuff. You know, I wasn't good enough to be in this class. But however, that is wrong. So be confident in yourself because once you become confident, your art piece will get stronger too because you're actually putting dedication, motivation to yourself. And keep working. Don't be nervous and don't be shy to try new medias, new different art forms, and then you will find your media and your artistic place, and then you will succeed after that.
So there are people who believe that you have to be born with this talent. I'm one of those people. And so I've never tried, right? Do you have advice for people like me to discover their talent?
Yeah. So, well, when people think about arts, they think about like drawing or painting, which is like that's the common form of art. But like art is a very broad thing. There's a different ways. You can do fashion design, that's part of art. You can be making jewelry, that's also part of art. You know, art is about being creative. So just because you're not good at drawing, all of my friends be like, oh, I'm not good at drawing. I'm like, it's not about drawing. There's different ways. Like photography is part of art. Filmmaking is like anything that requires creativity is part of art. And don't be scared to try. You know, it's okay to fail if you fail at it, but you can't really fail in art. So just go for it. And then if something interesting like painting interests you, try it. And if it's not your thing, just move on to the next one. And then keep going until you find what you like, because you don't really have to be born with anything. Just as long as you work hard for it, you'll be good at it.
So you think we all naturally have talent for art? We just have to discover.
Yeah, you just have to discover which form of art that you would enjoy and that you would like to keep making.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Bessa, for joining us today and sharing your experience. I hope everything's well with your family back home. That it's an issue we continue to work on and address. And as a fellow East African, you know, and someone who has been displaced because of war and conflict. My heart is truly with you and your community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me here.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll take some questions we've received from constituents. Natasha, who's up first?
Larry Nelson is up first.
Hey, thank you so much, Congresswoman Omar. I live in the district and I'm a strong supporter of yours since you started running. I just wanted to quickly, had a question for you, but I just wanted to preface by saying I'm a former field organizer with Fair Vote, Minnesota. This spring, my fellow organizers and I formed a union, which is sort of the trend among small nonprofits right now. The union was recognized by management fairly quickly. 2 hours into our first negotiating session, their lawyer said that they're laying everybody off. The layoffs were only the organizing staff, only the union members got laid off. Fair Vote is claiming that it's all financial, that it's not anti-union, but it certainly doesn't appear that way to us. We are currently in the process of trying to work some things out with our board of directors for a recall for staff. But my question is, one, I suppose it's really two parts. One is, and I think I probably know the answer to this first one, but do you support the trend among small nonprofits to unionize their staff? And then the other piece is, how do we hold, I believe Fairvolt got a PPP loan. So how do we hold small nonprofits and small businesses accountable to how they treat their staff, specifically those businesses that received PPP loans?
Well, thank you so much for your question, Larry. The answer is yes. I believe everyone has a right to join a union, including nonprofit workers. I don't know if you know this about me, but as a former union member myself, I know from personal experience the positive impact union wages and benefits has had on me and my family. The pandemic has shown many of the issues facing our nation, exposed disparities in our economy, from frontline workers having been exposed to COVID, and many of us having to juggle childcare and remote schooling, and all of the other things that we've all been dealing with this pandemic. It's been really a very revealing pandemic in so many ways. It is also really interesting seeing just the increased interest and union membership in Minnesota. So I do applaud you and your colleagues for joining that trend and making Minnesota live up to its values of being a worker-friendly state, and one that believes in the power of unions and the sustainability of unions. I do find it disheartening that your former employer laid off workers in the midst of contract negotiations. We have reached out and expressed our dissatisfaction with the steps that they are taking, as someone who's supported their work for a really long time. I do think it is important as part of the PPP loans to have said, right, that you have to keep your staff employed in order for you to be able to get these resources. And obviously, I personally believe that it is necessary for us to say, people shouldn't actually be laid off for trying to unionize. I think that is like an important value statement that we need to make. And certainly if you are receiving resources that are designed to make sure you're keeping your staff and keeping your business afloat, they should be tied to the treatment and the way in which you are caring for your staff.
Thank you, Congressman. I look forward to seeing you when you're in town.
Yes. Should be home tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Up next, we're going to have Wendy ask her question.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, how are you?
I am good.
great. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you today and appreciate this town hall meeting. It's my first ever, so.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm not sure I'm on my phone, so if I don't have video, let me see if I can get it here.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh, I can see you now.
Yeah. Well, my question is kind of twofold.
Okay.
I just know that individuals of all ages with dementia rely heavily on family members to provide a large amount of care, which is often exhausting financially and emotionally. More than 95% of individuals with dementia have one or more other chronic conditions, and the management is very complicated with their cognitive impairment. I know because I lived this with both of my aging parents, and coordinating their care was difficult, in addition to me being a full-time employee, a wife, and a mom. I'm just wondering if this guaranteed income that I've seen and read just briefly about would be a possibility for these non-paid caregivers, many of whom fall outside of the 18 to 65 year age range. I just know that lives could be considerably improved if home caregivers had access to additional income to pay for health.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Wendy, for that question. You know, we obviously believe that we have to invest in the care economy. So that's one priority, just in general, that we are fighting for the pieces of legislation that are moving, especially the reconciliation bill that we are currently negotiating and working on. As someone who comes from a line of family members who have had dementia and who have relied on family members to care for them, my great-grandmother had dementia, her daughter, her son. So I am very familiar with the work that goes into that. And I myself used to serve as a personal care attendant to my grandfather for a while, when he had gap in trying to find, someone outside of family to be able to do that work for him. In regards to the guaranteed income policy that we are introducing tomorrow, we believe that it will give autonomy and bargaining power to historically disenfranchised and undervalued workers in our economy, especially caregivers. Cash transfers would not only allow those who want to focus on care work to be able to do so with additional supplemental income, it could potentially be a lever for improving formal care economy by bargaining for increased wages and better working conditions. So, there is just so much that we can do. And as we think about truly what transformative 21st century economy for all looks like, these are policies that we all have to start having conversations about. I do realize that majority of the policies that I introduce are ahead of their time, but they are worth the fight, right? They are worth the conversation, the discussions. They're worth, the need for us to see how they can improve our community. I was talking to someone who's been sponsoring Medicare for All for a long time. The co-sponsor, Debbie Dingle, who her predecessor, which was her late husband, introduced this piece of legislation decades before she even came to Congress. And we are still fighting, right, to get the kind of membership in Congress where we can actually have this big bill become law. I think majority of us understand how these policies will have a positive impact on people's lives. We just have to continue to work on getting the willpower to be able to force these pieces of legislation as law. And I'm committed to that. and we'll continue to do so. And so I do appreciate you asking this question. I do appreciate your support for this policy that we've been working on for a really long time. And I hope everyone who's listening to us will give their member of Congress a call and ask them to support our guaranteed income legislation that we're introducing tomorrow, because the more people that are signed on, the better chance the bill has in becoming law. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. To kind of piggyback onto that,
Yeah.
There's a bill out now that's just been introduced, the Comprehensive Care for Alzheimer's Act, which would ask the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation to implement a dementia care management model to test the effectiveness of comprehensive care management services. And this model is designed to reach as many Medicare beneficiaries as possible, especially those individuals in the diverse and rural and medically underserved areas. I'm just wondering if that's something that you would possibly considering co-sponsoring, as that bill, as a caregiver who had parents, 2 of them at the same time, and you've obviously lived through the caregiving experience, you know how complicated it is. And I had parents who had everything from cardiac issues to respiratory issues to kidney issues, and trying to manage all those things, looking at the CMMI possibly proposing a model and looking at that so that as caregivers that we could wrap things together and make it more efficient. I know I would really appreciate some help in that area.
You have my commitment, Wendy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And welcome back to Minnesota when you come.
Hopefully we get our work done tomorrow so I could be home.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, thank you for all you do.
All right, bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Awesome. And then up next, we were going to have Kenneth, but he's unable to do the camera or audio right now. So I'm going to read off his question. Kenneth's question was about reconciliation. What green initiatives are you most interested in advancing, considering the bipartisan infrastructure plan may have set limits on spending for certain issues?
Yeah, Kenneth, that's a really good question. I'll just give you, because there's a lot of moving pieces on this, so I'll be brief on this because we don't actually know what will end up happening with the votes on the bipartisan bill. As you know, they took out all of the climate initiatives that were supposed to be included in the original one that we negotiated on. And so with that, I think for a lot of us, we now want to see some of the things that have been taken out of the bipartisan piece of legislation go into the reconciliation bill. And so the climate accord, renewable energy initiatives, and so much more. I think this is once in a lifetime opportunity for us to produce piece of legislation that actually tackles our climate crisis. And I think, we are at a pivotal moment where we will see where the House can produce influence on what comes out of the Senate.
Awesome. Thank you, Congresswoman. And just be conscious of time, Kenneth was going to be our last question.
Okay. So with that, I again just thank you all for joining, for listening to our updates, and for your questions. We look forward to seeing you all next month for our town hall. We have made an honest commitment to having a town hall at least once a month, We also do our Kafi and Qulan conversations, and those are more about specific policy initiatives that we've been working on. So we're going to do one really soon. I can't remember the date on that. With some economists around an economy for all agenda and some of the policy initiatives that we should be looking at, whether it's guaranteed income or even the child tax credits, and how those kind of things have had an impact and how they will continue to have an impact on our economy and the lives of our fellow Americans in this country. And so again, I just am really grateful and hope to see you either at our next town hall or at our more policy-oriented discussions with the Kafi and Qulan town halls that we have. So thank you all. See you soon. Bye.